A father's love is put to the test when a young adventurer must do everything he can to make his daughter happy, even if it means saving the world. Get your weapons, potions, and parenting papers ready. It's time to enter the world of Uchi no Koun no Tame Naraba, or Wamashika Shitara Mao and Mo Tasaru Kamoshirinai. In the midst of a typical and somewhat filler mission, since his days had lately unfolded in a dull fashion, 18-year-old adventurer Dale stumbles upon a girl named Latina. After observing her for a while, he realizes she's an 8-year-old demon girl with a broken horn, branded as a criminal in demon society, a mark that leads many to be exiled. Following that first encounter, he manages to communicate with her, albeit with difficulty, as she only speaks the demonic language. Luckily, it's the same language used in Dale's magical spells, so with considerable effort and a bit of a struggle, they manage to understand each other. Latina then shows Dale the skeleton of Ragu, a male demon who Dale assumes was her father. The girl tells him that before Ragu died, he warned her not to come near him as it might attract wild animals. Hearing her story and seeing the dire state she's in, Dale properly buries Ragu using his magical powers and takes Latina to the city of Cruz to seek help from Rita and Kenneth, the innkeepers, where he rents a room. Together, Dale and Rita tend to her with a bath, food, and sleep. The next morning, Latina feels a strong bond with Dale, as she feels cared for the first time in a long while. Fearing abandonment, she anxiously looks for Dale's face every time she wakes up, which deeply touches him. Later at breakfast, Latina has learned to greet in the human language. Rita gives her a pair of ribbons to cover her horns, and Kenneth gives her sweets. In just one night, the innkeepers grow fond of her. At another point, Rita asks Dale about his plans for the girl, and he suggests sending her to an orphanage, but Rita thinks it's not the wisest idea since Latina is, after all, a demon child. Promising to think it over, Dale ensures Latina has everything she needs for a decent life, and they head to the market, where he buys her new clothes and shoes. Returning from their outing, and seeing the affection Latina has for him, Dale decides that despite his dangerous life as an adventurer and his lack of experience with children, he will adopt Latina as his daughter. Meanwhile, Rita and Kenneth assure they can take care of her when Dale is away on missions. Living in the forest, Ragu shows Latina her first rainbow, explaining it's a sign from God. The girl is captivated by the beautiful sight and its meaning. Presently, Dale has become a devoted father but neglects his work to spend time with Latina, to the extent that he's willing to lose money from a job just not to leave her alone at the inn. However, Rita scolds him, saying that this way, he can never properly take care of Latina, and forces Dale back to work while she and Kenneth look after the girl. Initially struggling to accept this reality, Dale eventually realizes Rita is right and heads into the forest to work, hoping to return that same night. In Dale's absence, Latina starts helping around the inn, understanding their situation and wanting to lend a hand. Her clumsy attempts endear her to the normally tough adventurer customers, who grow very fond of her. Over time, Latina starts assisting with cooking and cleaning, and Kenneth rewards her with a sweet at the end of the day for her efforts. A week later, Latina has begun learning the human language, both through contact with customers and nightly lessons from Dale using illustrated books. One day, Kenneth and Latina go to buy supplies, which makes Dale a bit jealous, seeing Kenneth as a great father figure spending too much time with the girl. However, he allows Latina to go with him. On the way, Latina gets distracted by a street magician conjuring a rainbow and loses her way in the market. Kenneth returns to the inn to report the situation, and a worried Dale rushes to find her while Rita mobilizes Gilvester and other adventurer customers to look for her. As the adventurers search, Latina, scared, wanders the market where she encounters 3 boys, Rudy, Marcel, and Anthony, who don't understand the demon language and accidentally make her cry. Seeing this, her friend Chloe appears and hits the boys for bothering a little girl. After calming down, Latina heals Marcel's scraped knee, showing she can use magic, a rare skill. However, she claims she can only use magic for healing, not other purposes. When everyone becomes friends, they meet Gilvester, who takes Latina back to the inn and then walks the boys home. Latina apologizes for causing trouble for the adventurers and cries when Dale returns because she wants to stay with him, fearing being alone again. That night, she and Dale read a book with a picture of a rainbow. Dale's heartbroken when he gets a job that'll keep him away from Latina for several days, but Rita convinces him to make the most of his trip to the capital by bringing back some sweets for Latina. This perks up the young guy. That night, when he wakes Latina to tell her he'll be gone for a few days, she cheerfully accepts it, way better than Dale, who still can't stand the thought of being so far from his daughter. Dale flies to the capital on the back of a dragon, but he's so grumpy that he scares the pilot, who thinks he'll be demoted at the slightest mistake. Instead, Dale accidentally inspires him to get candies as souvenirs for Latina, and he even tells him exactly where to find them. Dale meets his old buddy, Lord Gregor, who's shocked to learn that Dale has adopted a demon child and thinks Dale's demon hunting job might pose a problem later on. Dale is tasked with killing several servants of the 7th Demon Lord since the king wants to avoid sending his own soldiers, fearing it could be seen as an act of war by the Demon Lord. However, the Demon Lord's servants are usually much stronger than ordinary demons, making it a high-risk job. So, Dale, Gregor, and a few other adventurers head into the forest to carry out the mission. Back at the inn, Latina's feeling down, so Kenneth teaches her to make shepherd's pie. As they talk, Latina shares her past and how she was always mistreated and seen as a bad kid. She blames herself for her father's death and fears that if Dale finds out she's bad, he'll stop loving her. But baking the pie helps distract her from these thoughts momentarily. Latina's friend, Chloe, visits the inn to see if Latina plans to go to school. Learning that the demon is 8 years old, Rita decides Dale should enroll her in the local school. In the forest, Dale, Gregor, and the other adventurers kill 3 dragons, several humans, and a female demon serving the Demon Lord. Without hesitating, Dale takes out the demon with a single sword slash. At the inn, Latina's pie becomes hugely popular among the customers, who lately come just for that, and Gilvester is amazed at how quickly Latina has completely won over the tough adventurer clients. After 2 weeks, Dale finally returns home. After a heartwarming father-daughter reunion, where they're happier than ever to see each other, they exchange gifts. Latina gives him a shepherd's pie she made especially for him, moving him to tears, while Dale gives her a giant bag of sweets and gifts. At the inn, an adventurer comes in with his arm bandaged, and Latina heals his wounded arm, astonishing Dale, who didn't know she could do magic. Learning that healing is the only spell she can perform, Dale decides to teach her various new spells. As he teaches her about magic, Latina innocently asks questions and expresses her wish for humans and demons to be closer. Without telling her about the hostility between humans and demons, Dale humors her. The next day, Latina attends her first day of school and makes a new friend, Sylvia, who immediately realizes Latina is a demon. Instead of being horrified, she's thrilled and asks to see her horn sometime. Then, a teacher enters the class, giving Latina a bad vibe, though she's not sure why. On her second day at school, the teacher discovers Latina's horn under her ribbon, physically attacks her, and begins shaking her in the air while delivering a violent rant about demons. As an extreme religious zealot, the priestess spews all her hatred toward demons and tries to turn the other students against Latina. However, her friends start defending her, and soon the whole class joins in defending the poor demon. The school staff quickly fires the teacher and drags her out of the hallway while she continues to scream slurs against demons. Latina is traumatized by this experience, and her fear worsens after learning that demons have a lifespan of 200 years, more than double Dale's. That night, Latina locks herself in her room, violently breaks off her remaining horn, and nearly bleeds to death until Kenneth rushes her to the temple hospital. When Dale arrives, he learns more about Latina's history. She explains that in the Demon City, she was expelled and told they didn't want her there, then everyone around her died, leaving her completely alone until Dale found her. Therefore, she asserts she doesn't want to be a demon if it means outliving him and her friends. After calming her down, Dale furiously visits the temple priestess and uses his significant political influence to get the teacher fired and expelled. It wasn't the first time she discriminated, as she previously targeted elves. Later, Chloe shows up in Latina's room to express her concern about the situation and scold her for removing her horn, which suited her so well. Eventually, the two girls hug and cry together, showing how important they are to each other. That night, the adventurers throw a party to celebrate Latina's recovery, and she apologizes for worrying everyone, endearing herself even more to the hard-drinking crowd that adores her. At the party, it's revealed that Latina can't sing, though Dale still thinks she's cute. Latina learns from her classmates what a birthday is and remembers that this month is Dale's birth month. So, she starts working formally for Kenneth to earn a wage and begins visiting Chloe's house after school to learn embroidery, since Chloe's parents are tailors and can teach her. At the tavern, Kenneth tells Dale that Latina is very smart, but he had to teach her basic stuff like how to hold a knife to cut potatoes or how to use a cloth. Then they ask the demon girl if she had never done anything at home, and she says she was always told she couldn't do things because it wasn't decided yet. However, when they ask what wasn't decided, the girl gets nervous and decides to stop talking. Dale learns from Kenneth that he has started paying Latina a salary for working in the tavern, shocking him because Dale believes it's unhealthy for a child to work, especially when he can happily buy her anything she wants. While Latina and Gilvester talk about Snow, the adventurer suspects two men in the tavern are watching Latina and gets ready to defend her. Later, Latina reveals she used her salary to buy materials and learned embroidery to make an adventure wallet for Dale's birthday. Overwhelmed with joy upon receiving the beautiful gift, Dale shows off the lovely present Latina made with her own hands to all the adventurers in the tavern. The next morning, it starts snowing, and Latina is pleasantly surprised since it's her first encounter with snow. Together with Dale, they build a snowman, and the girl enjoys the weather more than anyone. That afternoon, when Dale goes to work, Latina realizes Gilvester has left his money bag behind and runs out to return it. On her way back to the tavern, she is attacked by two men planning to kidnap her and sell her in the black market, where demon children are considered rare and valuable. Remembering Dale's advice to only use attack magic if in danger, Latina starts to cast a spell, but Gilvester arrives and threatens to kill the kidnappers. Just then, the chief of the guard, who is also Sylvia's father, appears. After jailing the kidnappers, he introduces himself to Latina, who is thrilled to meet her friend's father. It's been 6 months since Dale found Latina in the forest and decided to take care of her. Rita falls ill, and Dale becomes seriously worried, but then he learns that she and Kenneth are expecting their first baby. After congratulating them, our protagonist wonders if it would be better for him and Latina to move out to give them more space. However, the two innkeepers tell him that Dale can do as he pleases, but Latina must stay because she is a big help to the tavern. Dale receives a letter from Teethrow, his hometown, and decides to visit to have the jacket given to him there adjusted for his taller stature. He also wants to hurry back so as not to leave Rita and Kenneth without help when the baby arrives. Latina decides she wants to go with Dale to meet his family. Needing equipment, Latina goes to buy a knife from Rudy's father's weapon shop, accompanied by Kenneth. Initially, they don't want to sell her the knife because she's just a girl, but Kenneth convinces Rudy's father, and Latina buys her multipurpose knife with the money she earned working at the tavern. At one point, Rudy shows up at his father's business, and upon learning Latina is leaving, he becomes very sad. However, the girl tells him she's just traveling with Dale and will return to Cruz. Hearing this, Rudy calms down, seemingly wanting to keep Latina close for a lot longer. Later, at school, he tells his friends about her trip with Dale, and everyone gets excited for her. Meanwhile, Dale looks for a magician's cloak for her after consulting with the mage Helmine, though he doesn't like having to talk to her. Finally, the two set off on their journey. Just a few meters into the forest, Latina senses danger, and seconds after the girl, Dale spots the magical beast stalking them. With a single move, our protagonist defeats the beasts. However, as they proceed, they encounter more magical beasts, which Dale hates facing because he dislikes the smelly fluids they emit. Luckily, Latina uses her magic to create a protective shield, preventing those fluids from sticking to Dale's body. Then, our protagonist defeats the monsters, while marveling and being surprised by the girl's great magical abilities. Along the way, the two visit the grave where Latina's father, Raghu, is buried, so she can tell him all about her new life. The two set up camp, and Latina proves to be a capable cook even in the forest, for which Dale is very grateful. Dale and Latina continue their journey through the central city of Hassa before reaching the port city of Qual. There, Latina encounters things she'd only seen in books, like bridges, while showing Dale she's stronger than he thinks and shouldn't be treated too much like a child. She's also amazed by how different this new city is from the one she knows. That night, Latina starts writing in her diary, and Dale wants to read what she's writing, but she won't let him, which saddens our hero. In her free time, the demon girl takes the opportunity to send letters to her friends about the new experiences she's having on her trip. The first night, they dine in a fancy restaurant, and Latina notices one of the entertainers wearing a bracelet similar to hers. She also remembers Raghu warning her never to lose the bracelet because it's really important, though he never explained why. Later, Dale and Latina ask the artist, Glorose, about the bracelet. Glorose explains she's a demon from the country of Vasilius, ruled by the first demon lord, and that traditionally, demon parents give a bracelet to their children to celebrate their birth since demons find it hard to have children. The engraving on Latina's bracelet reveals her father Raghu's full name was Smaragdi. Glorose shares that she fled Vasilius after the first demon lord was killed by the second demon lord, as the country became dangerous. She also explains that there are several demon lords, like the third sea demon lord and the sixth giant demon lord, but three are known as calamitous demon lords, the second underworld demon lord, the fourth plague demon lord, and the seventh war demon lord. Before parting, Latina takes the chance to ask Glorose about her relationship with her human husband. The adult demoness shares that although the man has passed away due to their age difference, they were very happy together, and even though they couldn't have children, she's very glad to have met him. This somewhat reassures Latina, who's still troubled by the thought that demons live twice as long as humans. As they continue their journey, Dale and Latina meet a beastman friend and relative of Dale, Joseph. Dale and Latina arrive at a beastman village for their next stop. They stay with Joseph's family, and Latina gets along well with Maya, Joseph's daughter, and his wife, as they cook delicious meals with mountain foods and vegetables Latina has never seen before. While eating, Joseph mentions the priestess Banifsagi, and hearing the name, Latina drops her spoon. Dale gets concerned for her, but the girl insists she's perfectly fine. That night, our hero insists on asking if she's alright, and the girl affirms that as long as he's by her side, she'll be fine. However, the boy wonders if Banifsagi is the person who expelled Latina from her village. The next day, Latina seems still worried, and after Maya asks if she's feeling okay and starts crying, the demon girl does the same. Later, she tells Dale that she's a bad girl and that's why she can't return to her village. She then talks about a prophecy she doesn't quite remember well but was about her and how bad a person she is. Even though her family said she wasn't bad, Latina continues to blame herself for her father's death. The next day, they enjoy a feast prepared by the beastmen, bringing 2 giant boars they hunted. After another night in the village, they set off, and Maya is upset when Latina leaves. After dodging a barrage of arrows and avoiding traps laid by some soldiers, Dale and Latina reach his hometown, the village of Teethrow. Upon arrival, they learn the attackers were Dale's family, and after some arguments, everything gets sorted, and they're in good spirits. Dale explains to Latina that the main reason for their return is that his brother York is marrying Frida, the daughter of the chief of a nearby village, Sunas. Dale introduces Latina to the family, and although they're initially surprised, they end up taking a liking to Latina and her sweet personality. That night, Latina and Dale sleep in separate rooms for the first time, but in the middle of the night, our hero hears his daughter's voice and runs to her room. There, he finds the little demon wrapped in her sheets in a corner, on the verge of tears. Seeing Dale, Latina runs to him and shares that she started feeling scared upon waking up because, after all, she's in an unfamiliar place. After asking him not to leave her, they sleep together, and Latina manages to calm down. Latina writes a letter and sends it to her friends back in Cruz. The kids get excited reading about the wonderful things Latina has experienced in Dale's hometown and the warm welcome she's received from our protagonist's entire family. Meanwhile, Rita and Kenneth are happy for the little girl while watching their own son grow in Rita's belly. With the villagers of Teethrow gearing up for the wedding, Dale's grandmother, Wendelgard, takes Latina to a kennel to play with the dogs. Seeing how quickly the girl wins over all the dogs, Wendelgard decides to show the little demon something new and takes Latina into the forest to share her secret. That night, Latina tells Dale how happy she is to be with him. The next day, Latina heads to the forest alone, and Dale follows her, worried about her safety but tries to stay unseen. When they reach the forest, Latina makes a strange noise, and a magical wolf cub, the same one Wendelgard showed her in the forest, emerges from the bushes. Latina feeds it some dried meat. Seeing this, Dale gets mad and scolds her for getting close to magical beasts. However, the wolf cub tries to defend Latina, and Dale calms down, knowing they wouldn't harm her. Later, the little demon tells him that the wolf's family lives nearby and takes him to a place where the entire mythical pack is, stunning our protagonist who had never seen anything like it. He learns that Latina has befriended all the beasts. That night, York and Frida get married, and despite the happiness for his brother, Dale seems a bit sad. Then, Latina approaches him to talk, and Dale shares with Latina his life before meeting her. Though it was a job meant for York, Dale accepted the title of Reiki to protect the village from the outside. To avoid issues with nearby clans and feudal lords who don't favor our protagonist's village, his family offered the services of someone skilled in divine protections whose powers make him worthy of the hero title. That person is Dale, the family's eldest son. To fulfill his role, Dale had to eliminate others who threatened Teethrow and never felt comfortable with that role until he met Latina and finally began to find happiness using his strength to protect those around him, especially the little demon. After 2 months in Teethrow, Dale decides it's time to return to Cruz, as he needs to get back to work and defend his village from the outside. Hearing this, Latina feels sad because, although she misses her friends in Cruz, she has also formed new bonds with the people in Dale's hometown. Before leaving, and at the advice of grandmother Wendelgard, Latina decides to make an amulet for Rita and her new baby. She needs Dale's help to create the powerful inner part, while Latina will take care of decorating it. Gradually, Dale and Latina prepare for their journey back to Cruz, saying goodbye to friends and family in Teethrow. Some give them sweets, others advice, and the mythical wolves give them their own fur to ward off other magical beasts along the way. Wendelgard gives Latina a name, as normally it's granted when a villager comes of age, but Wendelgard doesn't expect to be alive when Latina reaches adulthood. By giving her this name, the elderly woman opens the possibility for Latina to return to the village whenever she wishes. Additionally, the grandmother gives her ribbons made from mythical wolf fur for protection, while Dale also has his custom-made and upgraded uniform. Finally, the two set off on their journey back, stopping at the Beastmen village, where Maya is delighted to see Latina again, not leaving her side for even a second. Because of this, Dale and Joseph concoct a plan to separate the wolf girl from the little demon. After spending a day there, the two continue their journey, stopping again in Qual, where Latina buys a special souvenir for Rita with her own money. While chatting, Latina tells Dale that her magic isn't very powerful. Despite not knowing her magical aptitudes, Ragu once explained to her that her power was limited. After a few days of travel, our protagonists finally arrive back in Cruz, with Rita and Kenneth overjoyed to welcome them home. Similarly, the adventurers are glad to see Latina back serving in the tavern. Latina returns to school and shares her adventures with her friends, while Sylvia asks about everything she did while away from Cruz. Chloe confesses that Rudy has worked on Latina's broken horn and made it into a necklace for Chloe. Since that day, the girl has always carried the necklace with her as a good luck charm and a memento of Latina. When Rudy sees Latina at school, he blushes and gets excited because he missed her a lot too. Her other friends are also glad to see her. Later, Latina gives them all the gifts she brought for them. then, Latina finds out that Rudy also has a necklace made from her horn and wears it every day. Meanwhile, Dale shares his adventures with Kenneth and Rita at the tavern. We learn about some of the situations Dale and Latina encountered on their journey. Like the time Latina had a bad feeling about a path in the forest, and indeed there were bandits ready to attack. But thanks to the demon's words, Dale managed to take them by surprise and easily defeat them. After seeing a cat pass by, Sylvia tells Latina that cats gather at the market at night, but she's not allowed to go there at night. After daydreaming all day about meeting a large group of cats, she mentions this to Dale. Following Jill Lister's idea, Dale takes her to see Gojo Shihisu, Jill Lister's neighbor, who has several cats as pets. We learn that Shihisu was a close friend of Dale's grandparents and is also a great merchant. In conversation, Shihisu tries to convince Dale to organize a festival to celebrate children's growth, a tradition from Shihisu's homeland, but it's beyond our protagonist's control. However, the merchant ends up convincing Dale to buy a beautiful but expensive kimono for Latina. Meanwhile, the wolf pup Latina befriended travels to Cruz to see her. With Rita's baby about to be born, Helmine drops by while accompanying Dale on his next assignment, which will keep him out of town for a month. Seeing Helmine there and noticing Dale's nervous attitude, Latina gets anxious because she senses that besides being work colleagues, there might be some other kind of past between them. Dale's mission involves subjugating demons, and although it's an important task, our protagonist can only think it's in poor taste to have been assigned this mission along with Helmine, despite her being a good mage. Latina makes a wish to grow up, putting Dale in a bad mood and leading him to drink away. Meanwhile, Latina's mood worsens due to Helmine's presence, and she can't hide it as everyone notices. Even the mage, who doesn't miss a chance to tease her for her small size. Meanwhile, the magical wolf continues on its way to visit Latina. That night, Helmine appears in the tavern to tell Dale to be more realistic about his devotion to Latina and to live everything he can for her, as they both know Latina will live much longer than him and he must learn to live with her absence once he dies, something he himself must teach her. Latina talks with her friends and classmates about the future, and it seems everyone has plans for what they'll do when they grow up, but Latina is still unsure about what the future holds for her, other than continuing to work in the tavern. The day before leaving, Dale and Latina decide to spend the day together as they will be apart for a long time. They go to Rag's grave, and he promises to take care of Latina for as long as he lives. The next day, Dale starts his mission, leaving Latina with Rita and Kenneth. While Dale is away, Rita's baby is born and appears to be a boy. During this time, the mythical wolf and Joseph's family visit the tavern to see the baby, also allowing Maya to see Latina again. Sometime later, Dale returns to Cruz to be with Latina, and they have a heartwarming reunion as their affection for each other continues to grow. This concludes the series. If you liked it and want to see more summaries like this, give me a like, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. I'll say goodbye for now, see you next time.